With patch 1.1, the last slot in the Holo Zero is finally revealed, and in this newly unlocked Inferno Reap mode, we will be facing the Nanovi directly without going through the Holo first, and the goal is to deal as much damage as possible. Now for this video, there is going to be mainly two things I want to discuss. First, how to maximize the Resonium Kit, which you can get from clearing Northern Garden, and also how to deal the maximum amount of damage in the actual fight. Now first off, for the rest of the run, there is no reason to have any modifier on. Modifier doesn't give you any positive effect in terms of gaining Resonium, if there's any positive effect at all. And without them, you can take more risk and take the more punishing options for more rewards, while still able to clear the stages. The rest of the run itself starts before you even enter the Holo. Well, most times I only burn 3 characters with me into the Holo because I'm trying to get the full team by the second floor, either for grinding or when I was trying to beat the either activity 11 version of the Northern Garden. You actually want to fill up all 6 slots here. The reason being, when you go through those phone booth events and you choose to not pick up the agent, you will get a random Resonium instead of the usual rewards where it's the gold gear and stuff. So that's up to 5 more Resoniums you can get from the run, assuming you end up choosing to solo. Once you're actually in there, you will be, as per usual, presented with some choices. For the choices you get at the beginning of every run, I recommend going for the resource conversion research, aka the gear coin research. Outside of that being just really easy to stack up from this run, it will also enable the right research event to show up, which we'll talk about in a bit. For the rate up, go with the damage set you like the most. Personally, I value the attribute, crit, energy, and dual set the most. And lastly, for the benefit and risk, take the plus 20% gear coin for the benefit, and HP cannot exceed 80% of the max HP for the risk. Now, without done, let's go back to the Resoniums. The Resoniums I suggested for pickup specifically don't have too many activation requirements and can pretty consistently increase your damage output at all time. But I also like the other 2 sets. There's the assist set for the general usage. Though if you do pick up this one, you want to be more consciously using your perfect assist, especially before doing burst in the actual boss fight. And the 4th piece of the set is really good because it gives you acuity every time you do perfect assist, which increase the stun damage multiplier. Dodge set is also kind of similar. You will need to consciously trigger its effect by triggering perfect dodge, and also within the set, the Shuttlecock Resonium is a double-edged sword, which we'll talk about a bit more when we actually get to the boss fight. Despite some are considered better than the other sets, the set bonus Resoniums are in general very high priority in my opinion. So once you do have 8-piece set of Resoniums, you probably want to prioritize the one without their 8 set bonuses when given a choice. Now, according to the in-game info, Holo, Affinity, and Deploy Bamboo will not be saved into the Resonium Kit. This means it will never be worth going for Holo or Affinity Resoniums throughout your run. Though the Bamboo here specifically says deployed, which means the Bamboo you brought into the team when you did the team setup. The Bamboos you pick up in the Holo are labeled as ally Resoniums, so don't skip those. They offer quite a good chunk of passive buffs. Another very high priority thing here are the Artifice Resoniums, aka the negative Resoniums. Those are incredibly powerful and fixed, and will not really give you any trouble in either Activity 0. Just don't pick up the one that's focused on in-run buffs, such as the Dark Cape or whatever it's called, which reduce the corruption buildup. One last thing about Resonium is about the attribute Resoniums. You know how you will only get the Resonium of a specific attribute if you have an agent from that attribute in the team. You can minimize the amount of RNG coming out of Resoniums by adding only agent from a specific attribute you want onto the team. With that being said, doing this did give me some serious trouble in the end, as I didn't have anything to stun boss waves, and I had to play the artillery phase almost perfectly, which cost me a few resets here and there. So do this at your own risk. Now, outside of Resoniums, there are also corruptions. Most corruptions shouldn't hinder your combat too much at, again, 0 either activity. But there are 3 corruptions you should try to remove as soon as possible if you get them, as they can greatly hinder the amount of Resoniums you can get. The first one is the Resonium Repulsion. This one reduces the amount of choices you have when picking up Resoniums, sometimes to 2, sometimes to 1. This will more likely force you to pick up Resoniums that you don't want. The second one is Rampage. This brings the price of Bamboo Shop down further at the cost of reducing amount of item per shop. With the red setup, you shouldn't have any trouble empty all the shops we come across even without picking this up. So it's just an overall hindrance as well. And the last one is the Self-Reassurance, which caps your gear coin at 3,333. Yeah, you don't want this one on you ever. Now that's pretty much everything about Resoniums I have, so let's move to the events. For min-maxing, there is something very specific you should be looking for on the first floor as early as possible. That is the research event tiles. When you get this, you want to choose to accept the research, and then you can give up all the gear coin you have on hand for a whopping 50% price reduction in all the bamboo shops. This is the base of maxing out all the shops you encounter in this run. Another thing you should be looking for is the artifact style. This makes sure you can have at minimum 2 artifact resonums with you, since you will be getting another one from the first resting room. The last event I want to talk about, which is actually huge for the Resonum run itself, is the Defense Force Logistic Hubs, where you can discard 7 Resonums randomly in exchange for all the Resonums of a specific set. Though for this one, it's good regardless of where it shows up, just make sure to go pick it up if it does show up. Now the next thing are the resting places which you get from each floor. Every time you enter the resting room, you will start with a special research event. You will be given some benefit, but will also be asked to take some risk. For the benefit, always prioritize more resonums, and for the risk, take the 1 corruption on the first floor and let 1 squad member lose 40% of their max health on the second floor. You will be allowed to skip 1 risk factor even if you do pick up the benefit, so skip the 3rd floor's risk factor completely. On a side note, the integrated supply tube will also provide you with resonums per use, so don't skip over those ones if it is a choice. For the bank, make sure to do at least 1 deposit, because I think the first deposit you do in the first floor give you a resonums, and withdraw 3 sets of gear coins per bank you encounter. All those gear coins will be converted to more resonums and catalyzed resonums. There is also this one tile that gives you the choice for paying for some hollow resonums or switch your raid up resonums. Don't touch the hollow resonum choice because again, they won't be stored into your resonum kit. And if you already have at least the 8 set bonus of your current raid up, consider pay out the price to switch the raid up resonums for something else. The last thing for Resonum run itself I have for you is just to use your items before hitting the boss, and then you can just easily disintegrate Nanavi with all the Resonums you got. Though, if you're doing a max corruption run, taking maximum of a risk, I do suggest you save some healing before the boss fight, or you might suffer a bit. Now that you got your Resonum kit, preferably filled up with 60 or 70 Resonums in it, let's talk about the actual boss fight itself. So when you enter the fight, you will see the boss in an invulnerable state with a bunch of tentacles spreading around and the timer paused. For each tentacle or hornets which the boss will spawn later you take down, the timer will be increased slightly. If you have Shattercock here, you can trigger it to give you more time on the first group of tentacles. Otherwise, I think it's pretty impossible to actually get them all. With that being said, it is important to know that when the timer is running, Shattercock will not slow down the timer, only the enemies. You absolutely do not want to trigger Shattercock when the boss uses those moves that turns it temporarily invulnerable. If you do, you basically lose 4 seconds of the timer where you cannot do any damage. Personally, I would rather tank the damage here because the boss really isn't that threatening. Now, despite it says do as much damage as possible, the boss does have an HP bar. Every time you take down the boss's HP bar completely, it will be temporarily disabled along with the timer, and also spawn some tentacles on the field. Again, killing those tentacles to refill your time, recover some energy, and also get ready to DPS again. You don't need to trigger Shattercock for this one, it's a lot easier to get them all on the second go. Now, some of you guys might have noticed, from the footage I've shown so far, the boss never used that special moves. But this boss does indeed have that special move that is triggered at around half health. You want to absolutely make sure this does not trigger, because every time it does, you have 10 seconds where you can't do anything. This is pretty easy to do though, just sub to the boss enough before stunning it to make sure it doesn't make out of stun alive. And just rinse and repeat the process to do as much damage as possible until the timer runs out. Though, the stage will also end prematurely if you kill the boss 5 times. That is considered the current max damage, which is around 135 million. I know, the 135 million looks super intimidating, but as long as you have a good Resonium Kit built up with just like a reasonably built team, this should be achievable for anyone. Also, the one-time reward for max damage is also capped only at 25 million, which is super easy to clear. But yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know about the Inferno Reap mode. Getting a good Resonum Kit is definitely the most important part of all of this, and of course the part where you try to make sure the boss doesn't go invincible for 10 seconds. If you discover some other tips, feel free to leave that in the comment section down below. As always, this has been SteamBandX. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.